Hey, it's Pop. Saturday morning cartoons rolls on. Hope you're enjoying spending Saturdays talking about old animation with me. It's always a good time, in my opinion. And of course, Batman animated series is at the top of the list of great things to talk about. So, another great episode with the Joker. This one's called Harley and Ivy. So, long before things got weird over on Max with their crazy show, this episode was just a lot of fun. Before things were woke and we were all sensitive to some of these things, this episode was a lot of fun. So let's get into it a little bit. Basically, it's really not a lot of like meat and potatoes. This is Joker Harley being chased by bats. Harley doesn't really help her relationship with Joker, where he's just being crazy Joker, right? She doesn't quite get away fast enough, and he basically gets mad and kicks her out of the club. And she ends up landing with Harley. She's going to go commit the crime that they couldn't commit, and in the process runs into Poison Ivy committing a crime also, and they end up teaming up, and it becomes a little bit of a cat and mouse kind of fun thing where they get to make a name for themselves and then figure out what that does that look like for the Joker, what does it look like for Batman, and all of that. So Batman actually takes a bit of a back seat in this episode compared to most, which is always kind of refreshing to see the dynamic elements of the show coming into play, where it doesn't always have to be some sort of stereotype and that kind of thing. So you open with basically just a generic little chase scene with Harley and Batman. Harley drive in, Batman's en route. You basically just get a little bit of the whole back and forth. Again, the animation is, of course, incredible. The voiceovers are, of course, incredible. Nothing about the show. By the way, there are some really like over the top cells or drawings of the Joker, this being one of them, where they really exaggerate the pointy nose and some of those types of features. It doesn't always work if you look at certain kind of frames, but in the context of the show, it's always fantastic. So, um, oh, it's like hand me the gun. She hands him the gun, and the gun goes bang. So he thinks that he's getting the right gun. It goes bang, and of course he's mad, and it does not work. So she comes up with another idea. Well, that doesn't work. All right, well, fine. You want to catch the car? I'll give you the car. So she launches the last half of the vehicle at the Batmobile. So that's how that hits. And that, of course, that knocks him off kilter. And this is where Joker starts throwing a rant and rave and crazy about why things are working and this. And Harley, you're not pulling your weight and you're not doing that. He's, of course, being the unappreciative. I don't know. Do you want to call him a boyfriend at this point? Because I'm not even sure that it's just the pudding relationship that they kind of have, but it's not necessarily that as well defined as maybe the way we think about it, basically. Anyway, so he throws a tantrum, throws her out of the club. You're out of the band, Harley, and she just said, "All right, fine, I'll go steal the diamond myself." She's there committing that crime, and then runs into Poison Ivy because Poison Ivy is also committing a crime, and she triggers the alarm. What's interesting here is that uh, Harlequin really plays much dirtier with the police and things like that than what Ivy wanted to do. So uh, Harley hesitates no moment to basically gas the police. Really just gas the police, which is always fun to see the extreme elements that everyone will kind of go to. And we see Renee Montoya, who's a character that's created for this show. We see her in action in a couple places here, of course, early on. They make their escape in a vehicle called Rosebud. And there's just like sort of like, I don't want to say wasted, but there's screen time, right? So she doesn't want to get a shot. Well, Poison Ivy has to inoculate her against all the toxins and poisons and things like that. Then there's sort of like the grief and the sadliness of how things going to work. They attack a man's club with like male stereotypes. And then, of course, you have sad Harley bemoaning missing Mr. J, doesn't have a purpose. I'm not fulfilled, right? And Poison Ivy, of course, is over the top yelling at her about, and by the way, they never get dressed. She's going to run around t-shirts all day. Yeah, and here's Joker. He's sad Joker now because he's realizing how much Harley actually did. They're out on a caper. And of course, Batman's sort of like figuring things out. Um, Harley breaks the rules right? Because they're becoming a name for themselves, right? There's a newspaper, spinning newspaper of Harley and Ivy making headlines, right? Crime wave and all that. Batman's always not quite caught up with them yet. She makes the mistake of calling Joker, who, you know, being the narcissist that he is, but at the same time, he's going to track her down. And then whenever they do get into their next scene here, Batman makes his way, and they catch him. When Joker shows up, um, Harley runs right to him, and then you have sort of like this big battle over basically like how are they going to handle their interactions, Harley going back to Joker or not, Batman in the mix, the two thugs in the mix, and that's where it becomes kind of like just fun action craziness. Joker opening with a Tommy gun in this area where there's like these explosions, and you can see some, like I said earlier, some of the design elements of the animation on Joker is different in this episode compared to some of the others. Don't exactly know all the ins and outs exactly. um yeah, anyway, this was one of those, the subtext of the abusive relationship is sort of like back and forth, and I think that works pretty well. um and I don't think that Joker is sort of sacrificed or anything like that. It's kind of fun to see him sort of play that out pretty well. So let me think if there was any other real notes here of anything of any substance. Batman, of course, figures things out, puts them away, and you have sort of like oh, Joker's making his complaints known. She just kind of looks up. She's still basically just enamored, infatuated, and that kind of thing. So there is sort of an interesting metaphor here of their abusiveness in their relationship. Um, so I think this is one of the better Harley Quinn episodes where you get sort of like the full range of her as far as being with Joker, without Joker, how she's able to hold her own. You do see a broader spectrum for the performer. I think it's all very good stuff. So anyway, that's my take on it. Love to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me week after week as we kind of dive into having some fun, looking at some old cartoons, old animation. This, of course, is the GOAT, in my opinion. Love to hear from you guys. Take care, everybody. I am Pops.